Hello and welcome to Sports with John. Today I am going to be playing Swindon Town, my beloved Swindon Town. We're playing a friendly against KS Chuggington, I believe their name is, and we're going to start here. So I thought for today's video, this is the lineups or whatever, I thought for today's video I would try to play a game while also answering questions that you might have, and that this is kind of like going to be a new model because, like, you know, for people who don't inherently find playing FIFA that interesting, maybe I can offer you like both entertainment and edification. So the idea is that I play and you learn. We're going to be, like I said, I'm playing Swindon Town, my beloved Swindon Town. The idea is that I'm going to take Swindon Town all the way to the Premier League, although because I lack any kind of talent at this game, that's probably a bit of a long shot. Oh, that was a shot. I meant to pass. Not very good yet. So the question I wanted to answer today is, what is wrong with the United States economy? Submitted by Twitter, or via Twitter, not by Twitter. Twitter is what's right with the United States economy. So, look at the ball movement for Swindon Town. Look at that. Let's just enjoy this for a second. Oof. So here's what's wrong with the U.S. economy. I can tell you pretty quickly. We are not consuming enough, but we are also not producing enough. And so our economy is not growing as fast as we'd like. The reason that jobs aren't being created in this economy is pretty complicated, but it all boils down to that. The economy is not growing as fast as it needs to grow in order to create jobs. Now, some people will say, like, oh, it's companies' faults for not hiring, but you know, we live in a capitalistic society, and you can't really blame companies for not hiring if they don't feel comfortable hiring. So the question is, what is the solution? And that's an interesting problem that that the President and Congress are facing right now. And they're debating this, and I guess Obama's going to make a big speech on Thursday. And in that speech, he is probably not going to propose what all economists in the world wish he would propose. But I'm going to tell you what that is, and then I'm going to tell you why he isn't going to propose it. We're 16 minutes into the game, and I think it's safe to say that here and there, friendly debut Swindon Town don't look particularly strong. By the way, I'm playing in this game somewhere. There's a player named John Green, but I can't find him. He hasn't been involved in the action much. Oh, that's great defending, guy. So here's the thing. What would really work? Is that John Green? No. Where's John Green? Goal! Oh, wide left. Typical play from Swindon Town. Here's what would really work. And it's not going to be done. What would really work would be a second stimulus package. One of the surprises of the stimulus to a lot of economists and a lot of amateur observers, there's a goal! There's a goal from John Green! John Green! John Green gets that in the back of the net 10 times out of 10, and it happened. A lot of economists would like to see a stimulus package because the stimulus plan that Obama came out with in 2008, which was very unpopular with a lot of economists, worked. In fact, worked really, really well at making the recession less deep than it otherwise would have been, at temporarily creating jobs. The problem is that it didn't work in terms of, it didn't work forever because it wasn't intended to last forever, and indeed it didn't last forever. John Green has a breakaway. So, John Green puts it in the back of the net again. How do you like them apples? You can't stop him. I don't know why he's bald, by the way. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try to get him to grow some hair and possibly a mustache. But, you know, the stimulus plan wasn't created you know, it was created to stimulate the economy, not to replace the economy. And when the stimulus spending stopped, we noticed that public sector job growth didn't just stop, it decreased, which was kind of the plan, but we thought that private sector job growth would grow when it didn't. So what would really work, and you find an interesting coalition of people now who are in favor of a stimulus, and that includes like traditionally very conservative places like the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, which is, you know, like I don't think that the United States Chamber of Commerce has ever endorsed a Democratic candidate for president, certainly, and they won't be endorsing President Obama in 2012. But they're in favor of another stimulus. Lots and lots of economists are. The reason it'll never happen is because it's completely politically inviable in this time of talking about deficits and debts to spend $1 trillion of government spending to unnecessary slide tackle. That's going to be a penalty. I agree. That was my mistake. To spend $1 trillion of tax money, great save, on on stimulus. It's just not going to happen. The reason it's not going to happen is because even though it wouldn't actually affect the deficit necessarily, it will seem like it's going to affect the deficit. And we live in this kind of sad political world where there's a lot of emphasis on scoring political points and not enough emphasis on doing what's right. But most economists agree that a stimulus would be pretty useful right now, but only if it came in concert with some actual deficit reduction, which would mean long-term deficit reduction over the next 5 or 10 years. So, for instance, there's quite a lot of talk about doing some sensible cutting of Medicare, for instance, that could probably save us a lot more money over 5 years than the stimulus. Great, that was the wrong button. Then the stimulus would cost us. So if we could save, $3 or $4 trillion and spend $1 trillion in stimulus, we could probably decrease, we could probably avert a double-dip recession here, and also not increase our overall public debt over the next 5 years. Sadly, that's probably not going to happen. But I want to talk in the second half here. I'm already up 2-0, not to brag, against KC Chuggington, the juggernaut of the third league of Bulgaria. I have no idea where these guys play. And I genuinely don't think this is a partisan problem. Like, I don't think this is a Republican problem or a Democratic problem or anything like that. But we're having trouble getting anything done in Washington, if you haven't noticed. And the reasons for that are pretty interesting. As interesting as that goal by John Green, who just got his hat trick. Oh man, if that guy had hair, he would be amazing. Look at that. Just beautiful finish. So why is it that that the environment has become so much more partisan than it used to be? That everybody's interested in scoring political points. That there's much less general interest in making smart decisions. Like, why is it that when a lot of economists across the political spectrum of economists are agreeing that we should do something, we still don't do it? The answer to that is that that I think most people in Congress are more afraid, like they have a greater chance of losing their seat in Congress during a primary than they do during the actual general election. So for those of you who aren't, oh, wrong button. For those of you who aren't American, let me briefly explain how this works. Oh, a little bit wide there. John Green should have taken that shot. John Green hits that 10 times out of 10. So before you get to be in the general election, if you're a congressperson, you have to win your party's primary. So if you're a Republican, you have to beat all the other Republicans who want to be the congressperson. And if you're a Democrat, you have to beat all the other Democrats. John Green, 4 goals. Achievement unlocked, I'll say. He's so good at being a soccer player. He reminds me a lot of, he reminds me a lot of me. I was a great striker in my day as a 7-year-old soccer player. So you got to win your primary before you can win the election. And because most congressional districts, because of redistricting over the last 20 or 30 years, most congressional districts are overwhelmingly Republican or Democrat. Like they're 90-10 in a lot of cases for registered voters who are Republicans versus Democrats. And that's a really interesting. Sorry, I keep saying that's really interesting because I'm trying to play soccer while I talk. But that's a big problem. Because it means that if you're the Democratic nominee in, the Upper West Side of Manhattan, you are going to win. There is no chance, nice cross there, big guy, there is no chance that you're going to lose. And so the only threat to you is in the primary. The only threat to you is that someone comes along and says, you're not liberal enough, or you're not conservative enough, so we're going to get rid of you. This pushes people this pushes our representatives to the extremes, to the poles of our political system, so that they have to what's called pleasing the base, right? They have to please the base. They have to make sure that the hardcore people who go out and vote in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary, that those people are excited to vote for them. And that leads to, I think that really fuels the gridlock in America, because instead of having a conversation where everybody says, both the Chamber of Commerce and the unions, two groups of people who rarely agree about anything, and a lot of economists think that it would make sense to have a stimulus with a deficit reduction package, and that deficit reduction package could look like, X, Y, or Z, but as long as it, reduced the deficit more than the stimulus would increase it, then it's not a problem. Instead of saying that, we all just say, well, we know in advance that, that the last thing that we need to do is spend more money. Well, we're going to be spending more money one way or another. So that's not the discourse to have. So that's a lot of my disappointment right now with the American political system, and I don't think there's an easy solution to it, because that redistricting stuff, it happened over a long period of time, and it's going to take a long period of time if we're going to really address it. And there's really no political will to address it, because people who are in Congress like having these, or at least they think it's good for them to have these districts that are 90% Democrat or 90% Republican, because they think it allows them to keep getting elected. In fact, what it does is it just pushes them further and further away from the values that initially made them want to be in public service. Oh no! Oh, somehow that guy managed to miss. That was pretty poor there. FC Chuggington. Brano Wiki. I bet I said that wrong. 100% chance I said that. Fliss is coming on. I want to see if I can get John Green one more goal here in the last 8 minutes of this epic win for Swindon Town. Hopefully, this will be the first in a series of videos in which I take Swindon Town to the very heights, to places they've never visited before. I am a huge fan of Swindon Town since their miraculous win over Arsenal in a game of FIFA 11 I played with my brother, and I believe deep in my heart that this team could be the next Chelsea. That is the next club with absolutely no history to buy their way into Premier League success. Sorry, Chelsea fans. I'm a Liverpool supporter. It's nothing personal. I do like a lot of the players from Chelsea, and I like the way they play. All right. What else was I going to say? Anyway, I think that's the problem with our economy. I think the ultimate problem with our economy is the political problem. But there is some sort of inherent economic weakness that we have. Also, I should mention that the biggest problem with our economy right now is Europe, which is not our fault. So Europe's failure to get their debt in order is a big, big problem. But that's for another day. For today, we're in the 90th minute, and I'm not going to be able to rant about how much I hope Germany and the Netherlands are willing to take on a lot of Greek debt. Look at that score line. Jay Green, Jay Green, Jay Green, Jay Green. You can't stop him. You can't stop him. He's just, he puts the ball in the back of the net 10 times out of 10. All right, thanks for coming and watching Sports with John. As you can see, Jay Green, player of the match, 9.7 performance. You will not see me, and I will not see you, but I will be playing FIFA with Swindon Town again soon. Best wishes.